They laughed at the 70-year-old inmate, called him weak, easy prey. But when the gang leader tried to make an example of him, no one laughed again. They say prison breaks a man the day he walks in. But for Ray Jefferson, the moment those iron gates clanged shut behind him, something entirely different happened. He became still. Not afraid, not angry, just still. It was early morning at the Huntsville unit in Texas, the kind of place where the air smells like metal and sweat even before sunrise. The guards moved with routine precision, calling names, shuffling papers, their boots echoing off the concrete. New inmates kept their eyes down, clutching bags of state-issued clothes like lifelines. But Ray stood out. At 70 years old, with silver hair cropped short and a back slightly bent from years of training students in mixed martial arts, he looked like he belonged in a quiet neighborhood. Maybe trimming hedges or feeding birds, not walking into a maximum security prison. The guard checking him in, Officer Rude, gave him a long look. 70? You sure you're in the right place, old man? Ray's eyes met his, steady and calm. I made my choices. Now I'm making peace with them. Rudd smirked. Peace doesn't last long in here. Inside, the noise was constant. Metal doors slamming, laughter from unseen cells, the occasional shout that cut through the corridors like a blade. Every sound carried a message. You're not free anymore. When Ray stepped into his new block, cell block D, the noise shifted. Conversations dipped for just a moment. Dozens of men, mostly younger, turned to look. A few snickered. Others muttered things under their breath. An older inmate was rare enough, but one who didn't look scared. That was something new. A tall man sitting by the wall, tattooed arms crossed, muttered to his friend, "He won't last a week." Ray didn't react. He scanned the place like he was assessing a fight gym. Corners, exits, potential threats. He didn't look nervous, but his breathing was measured, deliberate. Years of conditioning were still with him, hidden beneath the wrinkles and calm exterior. At lunch, he sat alone. The smell of mashed potatoes and boiled beans filled the room. Conversations buzzed in pockets. Across the room, a man with a buzz cut and sharp, cold eyes watched him. Tyler Briggs. Tyler wasn't loud. He didn't need to be. He ran the white gang that dominated Block D. Tattoos covered his neck, and there was always a half-smile on his face, one that told you he enjoyed being feared. Old man looks lost, Tyler said, flicking a piece of cornbread at Ray's table. His crew laughed. Ray didn't look up. He kept eating. One of the younger inmates whispered, "That's Briggs, you don't ignore him." Ray replied quietly, "Everyone's a somebody until they meet the right reason not to be." The kid blinked, unsure if it was wisdom or madness. After lunch, the guards led Ray to his cell. Second floor, middle tier. The air was thick with humidity and the scent of bleach. His new cellmate hadn't arrived yet. Ray set down his bag, folded his uniform, and sat on the lower bunk. He pressed his palms together, eyes closed, and began slow, silent breathing. Outside the cell, inmates passed by, some curious, others amused. "Look at Grandpa Zen," one of them joked. But Ray didn't move. He was thinking about the night that brought him here. One wrong decision, defending someone when he should have walked away. It hadn't been malice that landed him behind bars. It was pride, a lifetime teaching control, undone in a single moment of anger. Still, there was no regret in his posture, just acceptance. By evening, the yard filled with noise again. Tyler Briggs walked the perimeter, laughing with his crew, a cigarette hanging from his lips. He looked up toward Ray's cell. Their eyes met briefly. Tyler smirked. "Old man's gonna make my week interesting," he said to one of his men. Back inside, lights dimmed. The prison quieted to the sound of distant chatter and the occasional clank of metal. Ray lay back on his bunk, staring at the ceiling. He wasn't afraid of the men here. What worried him was the violence hiding behind boredom. In this place, fear wasn't what kept you alive. Discipline did. The next morning, as he lined up for roll call, a guard nudged him forward impatiently. "Move it, Grandpa," the man barked. Ray didn't even blink. He stepped forward calmly, shoulders squared. From the corner of the yard, Tyler Briggs watched again, studying him like a hawk sizing up prey. Something about the old man's stillness bothered him. Tyler leaned toward his second-in-command. "Let's see how peacefully he stays when I take his breakfast tomorrow." The younger man chuckled, cracking his knuckles. You sure you want to mess with the elderly, boss? Tyler smirked. He won't be elderly when I'm done with him. But Ray wasn't a man who feared threats. He had lived through harder places than this, both in the ring and in life. And though no one in that prison knew it yet, the calm they mistook for weakness was the same calm that had once broken bones and won championships. But the first test was coming fast, and when it did, everyone in Cell Block D would see the old man very differently. Morning in prison hits differently. The noise, the smell, the routine, everything designed to remind you that you're not in control. But for Ray Jefferson, control was all he had left. By his second day inside the Huntsville unit, the rhythms were already familiar. Wake-up bell at 6, line-up by 6:30, breakfast by 7. No freedom, no privacy, no softness in the voices of the guards. Every movement was dictated by rules. But Ray followed quietly, never complaining, never reacting. He knew something most men didn't. If you wanted to survive here, the fight wasn't with the others. It was with your own instincts. In the cafeteria, he sat at the end of the long steel table again, alone, spooning watery oatmeal while conversations rippled around him. Across the room, Tyler Briggs watched. He had that lazy grin plastered on his face, but his eyes stayed sharp. "Man's got nerve," Tyler said to his right-hand man, Duke Keller, a burly guy with faded knuckle tattoos and a scar running across his eyebrow. "Or he's just senile," Duke replied, chewing on a piece of toast. "Ain't said a word to nobody since he got here." Tyler leaned back. "That's what I don't like. Quiet men think too much. I'll bet you he's hiding something." That afternoon during yard time, Ray walked laps along the fence line. Not fast, not slow, steady. The sun was punishing, bouncing off the concrete around him. Men lifted weights, smoked cigarettes, or watched from the shade. Tyler stood with his crew near the basketball court, pretending not to notice. But every few seconds his gaze flicked toward the old man. Eventually, Duke spoke up. "You really gonna bother him?" "He looks harmless," Tyler smirked. "That's exactly why everyone's watching, Duke. Can't let some grandpa walk around here acting like he owns peace of mind." "This ain't church." He dropped the cigarette and stomped it out. "Tomorrow morning, cafeteria. Let's make an example." Back in the cell block, Ray was returning from laundry duty when a young inmate with nervous energy stepped beside him. "You shouldn't eat alone," the young man said quietly. "Briggs doesn't like it when new guys act different." Ray turned slightly, recognizing him from earlier. "You got a name?" "Dion McCarthy. I'm your new cellmate. Got moved this morning." Ray gave a small nod. "Then I guess we'll get used to each other." Dion hesitated. "You don't know who Briggs is, do you?" "I know his type," Ray replied calmly. Dion sighed. "He runs this place, at least he thinks he does. He picks targets, guys who won't fight back. That's how he gets respect." Ray looked at him, expression unreadable. "Respect built on fear doesn't last." "Not in the long run," Dion frowned. "You talk like a teacher or something." Ray chuckled softly. "Something like that." Later that evening, while the cell block buzzed with noise, Dion couldn't stop glancing toward the upper tier, where Briggs and his crew stood laughing. "They're watching you," he muttered. Ray kept reading the small Bible that had been left in the cell drawer. "Then let them." Dion stared. "You're really not scared?" Ray turned a page. "I've seen fear. This isn't it." Dion shook his head, baffled. He'd seen men twice his size crumble under Briggs's pressure. He couldn't decide if his cellmate was brave or suicidal. The next morning, everything felt tighter. Inmates moved slower, conversations were short. Word had spread. Briggs was going to check the old man during breakfast. Ray felt the tension but didn't show it. He moved through the line calmly, tray in hand. Oatmeal again, hard toast, coffee that tasted like rust. He took his seat at the same end of the table. From across the room, Briggs rose. His boots echoed with each step. He stopped behind Ray's bench, towering over him. "Well, well, look at that posture," Tyler said, tapping Ray's shoulder with his spoon. "You some kind of yoga instructor or what?" A few men laughed, waiting for a reaction. Ray didn't respond. Tyler reached down and grabbed Ray's toast. "Guess you're fasting today." He took a bite, smirking. "Appreciate the meal, Pops." Ray looked up slowly, his tone calm. "You done?" That single question shifted the energy in the room. It wasn't loud, But something in the way he said it made a few inmates go silent. Tyler leaned closer. "You got a problem?" "No," Ray said simply. "You do." Duke stepped forward, ready to intervene, but Tyler lifted a hand. "Nini, let him talk." Ray stood now, posture still upright, eyes locked on Tyler's. "You want to show power? Go lift weights. What you're doing here, that's weakness dressed as control." The cafeteria was quiet enough to hear the fans overhead. Tyler smiled tightly, jaw working. "You talk big for a guy who's about to lose his teeth." Tyler smiled tightly, jaw working. "You talk big for a guy who's about to lose his teeth." Ray didn't move. "You'd have to get close first." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Tyler laughed, a sharp, humorless sound, and backed away. "You got a mouth on you, old man. I'll give you that. Let's see how long it lasts." He tossed the toast back on Ray's tray and walked off. His crew followed, muttering under their breath. Dion, watching from a distance, hurried over after they left. "You crazy, man. You don't talk to him like that." Ray took a sip of his coffee. "He's just another man, Dion. I've seen tougher ones fall." Dion stared at him like he was looking at a ghost. "You don't get it, he's gonna come for you now." Ray wiped his hands on a napkin, stood, and said quietly, "Then he'll find out what coming for me really means." He walked toward the exit, shoulders steady, leaving Dion frozen in disbelief. But Tyler Briggs wasn't one to let things go, and the next encounter would make everyone in that prison choose which man they feared more. The next 2 days dragged by like wet concrete. Every step Ray took, every meal he ate, he could feel eyes following him. In a place where weakness invited pain, silence was often mistaken for fear, and Ray's silence was starting to bother the wrong people. Dion picked up on it first. "They're planning something," he said quietly that night as they sat in their cell. The faint hum of voices and clanking pipes filled the air. "Briggs doesn't take embarrassment lightly." Ray was sitting cross-legged on the lower bunk, breathing slow, calm as ever. "Let him plan," he said. "Planning requires thinking. Thinking gives him time to doubt." Dion frowned. "You really think he's going to doubt anything?" Ray opened his eyes, meeting his cellmate's nervous stare. "Everybody doubts, Dion, even the loud ones. Especially the loud ones." Dion shook his head, muttering, "You talk like some movie monk." Ray smiled slightly. "I've been called worse." The next morning, when they walked to the cafeteria, tension hung in the air like smoke. A few inmates were whispering. Others kept their distance. Word had spread, Briggs was making his move. Breakfast passed without incident, which almost made things worse. Briggs and his crew stayed at their usual table, laughing. But there was a look in his eyes, patient, waiting. Ray knew that look. He'd seen it in the ring before, a fighter strikes later. In the yard, the setup began. Briggs's men were playing basketball near the fence while Ray walked his usual laps. The game stopped briefly as he passed, and a ball suddenly rolled near his feet. "Hey, old man," one of them called. "Throw that back." Ray bent down, picked up the ball, and tossed it with a clean, perfect spin straight into the player's hands. A few onlookers whistled, impressed. "Guess you still got it," the player joked. But before Ray could reply, Briggs's voice cut across the yard. "You trying to show off, Grandpa?" The laughter that followed wasn't friendly. Ray simply replied, "Just helping out." Briggs walked closer, dribbling another ball. "You got a lot of confidence for someone who don't belong here." "I belong where I stand," Ray said, his tone even. Tyler circled him like a predator testing prey. "You're one of those wise old types, huh? Think you can talk your way out of things?" Ray's voice didn't waver. "Talking only works on people who listen." Tyler smiled. "Then let's talk somewhere quieter." That night, back in the cell, Dion couldn't stop pacing. "They're gonna corner you, man. It's what they do. Laundry room, showers, somewhere guards don't look too close." Ray stretched his hands slowly, the bones in his knuckles popping softly. Then they picked the wrong corner. Dion stared at him, unsettled. "You don't even seem worried." "I learned a long time ago," Ray said. "Fear's just energy. You can use it, or it uses you." The next day, the first test came. It wasn't a fight, not yet. It was a message. Ray returned from work duty to find his bunk flipped, clothes tossed on the floor, his Bible torn in half. Dion froze when he saw it. "Oh man, this is bad, real bad." Ray picked up the pages, carefully stacking them together. His face was calm, but there was a flicker in his eyes, something that had been quiet for years. Dion waited for him to explode, to shout, to do something. But Ray simply set the torn pages on the table and said, "They're impatient." Dion frowned. "You're not going to tell the guards?" Ray shook his head. "Snitching doesn't fix disrespect. It multiplies it." Later, during dinner, one of Briggs's men accidentally spilled soup over Ray's tray. "My bad, Pops," the man said, smirking. Ray just stared at the mess, then looked up slowly. "You have poor balance," the man blinked. "What?" Ray stood, grabbed the tray, and calmly placed it back on the counter. He didn't swing, didn't raise his voice, just walked away. Tyler, watching from a few tables over, looked frustrated. He leaned toward Duke. "He's playing a game, trying to look untouchable." Duke shrugged. "Maybe he is," Tyler smirked coldly. "Then we'll touch him where it hurts tomorrow. Laundry duty." That night, Ray couldn't sleep. He wasn't afraid of the fight. He was afraid of losing control. Years ago, he'd promised himself he'd never use his training in anger again. The last time he did, it changed everything. But men like Briggs didn't understand boundaries. They only understood consequences. As the lights dimmed, Dion turned to him. "You think they'll really go for you tomorrow?" Ray answered softly, "They'll try. But what happens next, that's up to them." Dion didn't respond. He just stared at the ceiling, realizing for the first time that maybe, just maybe, the old man wasn't the one in danger. Maybe everyone else was, but tomorrow would prove it. And the laundry room wouldn't just clean clothes. It would wash away every doubt anyone ever had about who Ray Jefferson really was. That night, Dion barely slept. Every time the pipes hissed or someone shouted down the corridor, he flinched. He kept replaying the cafeteria, the yard, the looks from Briggs's crew. He knew what came next. Every inmate did. The laundry room was a hunting ground. No cameras, no guards for at least 10 minutes at a time. Just machines, steam, and payback. But Ray, he was calm, lying on his bunk, eyes closed, hands folded on his chest like he was meditating. The rhythmic hum of the ventilation didn't bother him. He wasn't ignoring what was coming. He was preparing for it. Around midnight, Dion finally whispered, "You ever fought in a place like this before?" Ray didn't open his eyes. "Not like this. The ring had rules, this place doesn't." "So you really used to fight?" Dion asked. Ray sat up slowly, his voice low but firm. "I trained fighters. Coached for 25 years, MMA, old school discipline. Taught men how to stay calm when someone's trying to break them." Dion raised an eyebrow. "And you ended up here, why?" Ray looked at the ceiling for a moment. "Someone attacked my son-in-law in a parking lot. I stopped it, but I went too far." Silence stretched between them. "You mean?" Dion started. Ray didn't finish the sentence. "Control is a muscle. You stop training it, it fails you." Dion nodded slowly. He was starting to understand. The quiet around Ray wasn't weakness. It was recovery. A man patching together a life of discipline after losing it for one brief, irreversible moment. The next morning, the air felt heavier. The guards barked orders, the clang of gates echoed, and every inmate knew when the day smelled like trouble. Dion tried to talk Ray out of going to laundry duty. "Skip it, tell them you're sick." "Do something?" Ray buttoned his jumpsuit calmly. "Running teaches people they can chase you." Dion threw his hands up. "Man, you're talking like some Yoda-type sensei. This ain't a lesson, this is survival." Ray gave him a look, not angry, not pitying, just knowing. Survival is the lesson. When Ray entered the laundry room, the heat hit him first. The industrial dryers rumbled, steam rising in thick clouds. The air was heavy with detergent and tension. Briggs's crew was already there, 3 of them pretending to fold sheets, another stacking uniforms. Too calm. Too quiet. Dion had managed to get himself on a different work list, but he was watching from the hallway through the small square window in the metal door. His chest tightened. Tyler Briggs appeared last, carrying a bag of dirty linens over his shoulder. "Morning, Grandpa," he said, letting the bag hit the floor with a wet thud. "Heard you're good with your hands. Let's see what you can do with these." He kicked the bag toward Ray. A wave of laughter followed. Ray didn't react. He started folding one of the uniforms methodically, as if nothing was wrong. That calm only made Tyler angrier. "You really think you're better than me?" Ray didn't look up. "No, But I think you're trying too hard to prove something. That line hit deep. Tyler's grin faded. What did you say? Ray finally looked him in the eye. Men who pick on the weak, they're just trying to remember the last time they didn't feel small. Duke took a step forward. You got a death wish, old man? Ray sighed softly. No, but you might, Tyler snapped. Hold him. The three men moved fast, but Ray moved faster. Years of muscle memory exploded through his body. He sidestepped the first grab, caught the attacker's wrist, and twisted sharply. Clean, efficient. The man's knees buckled before he hit the ground. The second came swinging wild. Ray ducked low, swept his leg, and the man went down hard, gasping. Duke lunged from behind, but Ray turned with precision that didn't come from panic. It came from discipline. He shifted his weight, grabbed Duke's collar, and used his momentum against him. Duke crashed into the table, metal clanging like a gunshot. Steam filled the air. The whole room froze. Tyler stood there, jaw tight, breathing hard. His eyes darted between his fallen men and the calm, still figure standing in front of him. Ray didn't advance. He just stood straight, breathing steady. You don't have to do this, son. Don't call me that. Tyler hissed. Then act like you're not, Ray said. Walk away while you still can. For a moment it looked like Tyler would rush him, but something in Ray's expression stopped him. There was no fear, no gloating, just unshakable certainty. Tyler spat on the floor and stepped back. You just made the worst mistake of your life. Ray didn't respond. He simply said, maybe, but I made it standing up. When the guards finally entered minutes later, the room was eerily calm. Three men groaning on the floor, Ray quietly folding uniforms again. No one said a word. Back in the cell, Dion looked at him like he was seeing a myth come alive. I saw it, man. You dropped them like it was nothing. Ray sat down, rubbing his hands with a towel. Nothing is ever nothing. It all costs something, Dion frowned. What do you mean? Ray looked at him, tired but composed. Peace doesn't come free. You have to fight for it. But the trick is knowing when the fight's worth it. But the fallout was just beginning. Word was spreading fast, and in a place like Huntsville, respect spreads faster than fear. By the next morning, everyone inside Cell Block D had heard what happened in the laundry room. 3 men laid up in the infirmary, one with a broken wrist, one with cracked ribs, and another too humiliated to talk. The story spread fast, and each retelling made Ray Jefferson sound less like a man and more like a ghost that had come to collect old debts. Some inmates started giving him nods of respect when he passed. Others stepped out of his way completely. Even guards looked twice, quietly joking about how an old man had embarrassed one of the most feared gangs in the block. But not everyone found it funny. Tyler Briggs had spent years building a reputation built on fear, one that could crumble overnight if he didn't regain control. And nothing burned more than realizing his new enemy didn't even want to fight him. That evening, while most of the inmates watched TV in the day room, Tyler sat in the corner with his crew. Duke's arm was bandaged, and he was glaring at the floor. The others kept quiet, waiting for their leader to speak. Tyler finally broke the silence. We're not done. Duke looked up. Boss, that old man's dangerous. He's not just some fighter, Tyler slammed his hand on the table. I don't care what he is. You think I'm letting some gray-haired nobody make me look weak? Nah, we handle this our way. One of the younger guys hesitated. You sure? Word is the guards are watching him now. Tyler smirked. Then we do it where guards don't look. Make it quiet. Make it hurt. He leaned back, eyes cold. You don't beat a man like that with fists. You beat him with fear. That night, Dion noticed Ray cleaning the floor of their cell, his movements steady and focused. He wanted to say something encouraging, but worry was written all over his face. Everyone's talking, Dion said softly. They say Briggs ain't letting this go. Ray wrung out the mop and replied, That's his choice. Dion frowned. You ever think about asking for a transfer? You could request solitary, for safety. Ray looked up, half smiling. I didn't come here to hide. You don't run from what life puts in front of you. You meet it, deal with it, and walk out better. Dion sighed. Yeah, well, around here, walking out ain't always an option. The next day, Ray's work detail changed. He was moved from laundry duty to yard maintenance, something that sounded harmless enough. But he could feel the setup the moment he stepped outside. The air felt charged. Too many familiar faces pretending not to look. He picked up a rake and began clearing debris near the fence. Across the yard, Briggs and Duke were working trash detail, pushing carts closer to his area. With each pass, Ray kept his back turned, pretending not to notice, but every instinct in him was awake. "Yo, old man," Tyler called. "Missed you in laundry today. You hiding from me now?" Ray didn't respond. He raked another pile of dirt and leaves. That silence made Tyler grin. "I guess you only fight when there's an audience." Ray finally looked up. "Fighting's easy. Control's the hard part," Duke scoffed. "You think you're better than us, huh?" "No," Ray said simply. "But I'm not worse either." That line caught a few ears nearby. Even inmates who had nothing to do with the argument stopped pretending to work. Something about the old man's calmness unsettled them all. It wasn't arrogance, it was mastery. Tyler stepped closer, just within arm's reach. "You think you taught me something in that laundry room?" "You didn't teach me a damn thing." Ray looked at him with quiet pity. "That's because you weren't ready to learn." Duke moved first, this time trying to blindside him with a shove. Ray sidestepped easily, letting Duke stumble past. No punches, no retaliation. The guards shouted from across the yard, "Break it up!" Everyone froze, including Briggs. They knew getting caught meant losing yard privileges for a week, maybe more. Tyler forced a smirk, trying to save face. "You lucky, old man. Next time, you're not walking away." Ray lowered his rake. "That's what you said last time." The yard buzzed again as the guards separated them. But behind the smirks and fake laughter, Tyler was seething. Every word, every calm reaction from Ray felt like a direct challenge. He wasn't losing control of the block because of some aged fighter. He was losing it because that man refused to play his game. Later that night, Tyler cornered one of the guards near the laundry hall, a man known to look the other way for a few favors. "We need some privacy tomorrow," he muttered. 5 minutes, maybe 10. The guard hesitated. "You're already on thin ice." Tyler slipped something small into the guard's palm, a folded note with a few commissary credits and a name. "You didn't see me." The guard pocketed it and walked off without a word. Back in his cell, Dion couldn't stay quiet. "You're really not scared at all, huh?" Ray glanced at him. "Being scared doesn't help you breathe better." "I'm just focused." Dion leaned forward. "So what, you're just waiting for them to try again?" Ray looked at him with quiet certainty. "I'm waiting for them to realize the fight they're picking isn't against me. It's against the part of themselves they keep trying to bury." Dion blinked, confused but somehow moved. "You talk like every punch got a meaning." Ray gave a small smile. "It does, if you've been hit enough times." The following morning, the tension in the air was almost visible. Inmates whispered as Ray walked to his new assignment, back in the laundry room. But this time no one was laughing. Everyone knew something was coming. And when it did, the walls of cell block D would never forget it. The next morning felt different, too quiet, too controlled. Even the guards seemed to walk slower, glancing toward the laundry room door like they already knew what was about to happen. Word travels fast in prison, especially when it smells like blood. Ray Jefferson walked with his usual calm stride, his hands behind his back, his face unreadable. Dion trailed behind him until the last hallway, whispering urgently, "Ray, listen to me. Don't go in there alone. I heard Briggs made a deal with one of the guards. He's got time bought." Ray stopped just before the metal doors and turned to him. "You can't live your life avoiding storms, son. Sometimes you walk through them." Dion's voice cracked. "This isn't a storm, it's a setup." Ray gave him a look that silenced the protest. It wasn't arrogance, it was something deeper. Acceptance. He pushed open the door and stepped inside. The room was hot and wet, full of thick steam and the mechanical growl of dryers. The air smelled of bleach and burnt fabric. For a moment it looked empty. Just piles of sheets, metal tables, and a slow-dripping pipe near the ceiling. But Ray knew better. He walked toward the back counter, sorting uniforms with deliberate slowness. Every sense in his body was alert, the steady rhythm of the machine's massed footsteps, but he could feel the shifts in air, the faint scrape of rubber soles against tile. Then he heard a low voice from behind one of the dryers. "You came back, old man. Brave or stupid, I can't tell which." Tyler Briggs stepped out first, shirt rolled up to his elbows, a look of cold satisfaction on his face. Two of his crew followed. Different men this time, leaner, quicker, meaner looking. The door behind Ray shut with a metallic thud. Ray didn't turn around. "You ever get tired of losing, Tyler?" Tyler smirked. "You ever get tired of talking like a preacher?" Ray kept folding. "You mistake calm for preaching. That's your problem." Tyler stepped closer, his boots squeaking on the damp floor. "You humiliated me. You made my guys look weak." "No," Ray said softly. "You did that yourself." That line sliced through the air. The two younger men tensed. Tyler's smile faded. "Grab him," he said quietly. The first man lunged. Ray sidestepped, his motion fluid and effortless. He caught the attacker's forearm mid-swing, twisted it in one swift movement, and used his weight to guide him down. The man's body hit the floor with a crack. The second man came in swinging, a broken mop handle raised like a bat. Ray ducked under it and countered with a precise strike to the ribs. The sound was sharp, controlled, not wild. The man gasped, the air leaving his lungs all at once. Tyler stood frozen for a second, realizing this wasn't like before. This wasn't just survival. This was training, the kind you couldn't fake. Ray straightened, breathing steady. "You still have time to walk away." Tyler's face twisted. "You think you're teaching me something, old man? You think I need your lessons?" Ray's voice dropped low. "Everyone learns eventually. The question is how much pain it takes." Tyler lunged, throwing a wild punch. Ray caught it mid-air, rotated his hips, and redirected the motion. Tyler's momentum turned against him. He slammed into the table edge, the metal ringing out. But Ray didn't follow up. He stepped back. "Enough." Tyler staggered up, eyes burning. "You don't tell me when enough." He grabbed a metal pipe from beside the dryers and swung hard. This time, Ray didn't dodge completely. The pipe grazed his shoulder, knocking him slightly off balance. He gritted his teeth, turned and grabbed Tyler's wrist again, but slower, more deliberate. He twisted until the pipe dropped. Then he looked straight into Tyler's eyes. "You fight like someone trying to prove he exists. Stop chasing pain to feel alive." Tyler struggled but couldn't break free. Ray held him steady, not hurting him, just holding him until the fury drained out. The sound of boots echoed from outside. The guards were coming. Someone must have tipped them off. Ray released him gently, letting him stumble back. "It's over," he said. Tyler glared at him, chest heaving. "You think this makes you a hero?" "No," Ray replied. "It just makes me free." The door burst open. Two guards entered, shouting. They saw the bruised men, the overturned table, the pipe on the floor. Tyler pointed at Ray. "He attacked us." Ray didn't say a word. He just raised his hands and let the guards cuff him. One of the officers, a younger man with a look of disbelief, muttered, You did all this?" Ray answered quietly. They started something they didn't understand. As they escorted him out, the inmates outside had already gathered, watching through the bars. Dion was among them, gripping the railing. Their eyes met briefly. Dion whispered to himself, "He's not fighting to win. He's fighting to teach." When the guards pulled Ray past the block, a strange hush followed, the kind that only comes when a man does something so controlled, so precise it makes everyone rethink what strength really looks like. Back in the laundry room, Tyler sat on the floor, breathing heavily, his pride shattered. One of his men whispered, "He didn't even hit you all the way." Tyler didn't answer. For the first time, he wasn't angry. He was confused. But confusion has a way of turning into reflection. And soon even Tyler Briggs would start wondering if maybe the old man wasn't an enemy at all, but the only person who'd ever told him the truth. For the next 3 days, the prison buzzed with stories about the laundry room fight. Everyone had their version. Some said Ray Jefferson took down 4 men with a single move. Others swore he was a retired special ops soldier. The truth didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that the legend of the old man from D Block had taken on a life of its own. Guards started treating him differently. Not with warmth. No one did that in Huntsville, but with a quiet kind of respect. When Ray passed through security or lined up for meals, the officers stopped barking orders. They didn't rush him. They just watched. To them, he wasn't just another inmate anymore. He was proof that age and violence could coexist in a way they didn't understand. Dion noticed it too. "Man, you're like a ghost story now," he said one night, watching Ray patch up the bruise on his shoulder with a damp cloth. Nobody's messing with you. Ray didn't look up. That's not a good thing, Dion frowned. You serious? You earned respect. Ray wrung the cloth out and laid it across the metal sink. Fear and respect look the same from a distance, but one lasts, the other destroys. Dion sat back, shaking his head. You talk like you're not even in the same world as the rest of us. Ray gave a faint smile. I've just lived long enough to know what fights are worth staying in.